I am a 60-year-old man, and I don't usually share my personal struggles online, but I need to vent. My son passed away about 12 years ago in a tragic accident, and that alone shattered me. To make matters worse, my daughter-in-law took my grandkids and moved far away, practically disappearing from my life. For over a decade, she never allowed me to see them. No phone calls, no visits, nothing. Then, a few months ago, out of nowhere, she contacted me. At first, I thought she had a change of heart and was finally going to let me reconnect with my grandkids. But no, she immediately started talking about my money. She outright demanded that I leave my entire estate to her in my will. Yeah, shocking, right? She actually believed I would just hand everything over. No way. Let me give you some background. I've worked hard my entire life, taking on tough, no-frills jobs before eventually starting my own small business. I'm no tech genius or anything, just a skilled craftsman who built a comfortable life. By my mid-50s, I had saved up a decent amount, always intending to pass it down to my son and grandkids. But life had other plans. My son passed away, and my daughter-in-law completely cut me off. I tried desperately to stay in touch after the funeral, but she ignored my calls, blocked my emails, and moved away. Birthdays, holidays, important milestones, I missed them all. The only scraps of information I got about my grandkids came from acquaintances or random social media posts. It was heartbreaking. Then, out of nowhere, she contacted me a few months ago, acting all friendly, asking how I was and if I was in good health. I was hopeful until she suddenly brought up my finances. She tried to make it seem like it was for the kids, but let's be real, we all know it was for her. She demanded to be named the primary beneficiary of my entire estate, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I didn't explode on the spot. I simply told her I'd think about it. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept remembering all the times she slammed the door in my face when I tried to see my grandkids. I was furious, sad, and overwhelmed all at once. The next day, I spoke to my mother, my son's grandmother. She's in her 80s, but still sharp as ever. She told me to lawyer up immediately. Sure enough, a couple of days later, I received an extremely formal email from my daughter-in-law. It was filled with manipulative nonsense stating, "Given your advanced age, we must discuss the children's financial future." She was essentially demanding that I sign everything over to her, under the guise of securing the kids' well-being. The irony? She had spent over a decade keeping them from me. My lawyer, a very level-headed guy, advised me to document everything. If she tried any shady moves, I needed proof of her demands and threats. Meanwhile, my heart kept breaking for my grandkids. They were now teenagers, and I had no idea what she had told them about me. For all I knew, they could have been raised to hate me based on her twisted version of events. That thought devastated me. Over the next few days, she kept pressuring me, leaving voicemails, saying I owed it to the kids, accusing me of punishing them by not handing over my money. Classic manipulation. Not once did she apologize for shutting me out of their lives. That was the final straw. I decided to set up a trust for my grandkids, one that bypassed her completely. My lawyer confirmed that it was entirely legal. This way, when each grandchild reached a certain age or pursued education or career training, they could access their share of the inheritance without their mother controlling a single penny. I thought about what my son would have wanted. He loved his kids and would want them taken care of, but he also had zero tolerance for entitlement. I could practically hear him saying, "Dad, don't let her take advantage of you." So I stood my ground. Once she found out about the trust, she lost it. She bombarded me with emails, accusing me of not trusting her. Well, duh, she was pulling obvious gold digger moves. I set up a video call to see if she had even a shred of honesty left in her. Spoiler alert, she didn't. She started off sweet, then launched into a rant about how hard her life had been since my son died. She even claimed she moved away because she felt unsafe around me. What kind of nonsense was that? I calmly asked why she never reached out when I had offered help. She dodged the question with vague excuses. Then she tried justifying her demand for my entire estate, saying, "I'm their mother. It's my job to secure their future." I told her straight up that I had set up a trust for them and that she would get nothing. Watching her face twist in anger was, well, I won't lie, oddly satisfying. She started yelling about how I was undermining her authority and humiliating her by not trusting her with the funds. I couldn't help but respond. After everything you pulled, you expect me to trust you? Absolutely not. Then came the final threat. She said she'd take me to court for child support or some other bogus claim if I didn't comply. I told her to go ahead. My lawyer was already prepared. She hung up on me, and I spent the next hour feeling torn between wanting to punch a wall and wanting to cry. My grandkids are the real victims here. They're stuck in this toxic situation, and it kills me that she's using them as pawns. My uncle, who's 70 now and one of the few family members who knows the full story, told me I needed to protect myself. He was right. After that video call, I received a letter from her attorney, another demand for my money. But now, I was ready for whatever came next. I made sure my grandkids would have a certain standard of living, but that didn't mean I was obligated to hand over a portion of my wealth. My lawyer practically laughed at the idea, explaining that grandparents aren't legally required to fork over money like that. So, we compiled all the necessary documentation, proof of my business, personal finances, and legal rights. I could do whatever I wanted with my assets. If I chose to leave everything to a random cat shelter, I could, but, of course, my priority was ensuring my grandkids were taken care of, just not through their manipulative mother. To guarantee that we established an ironclad trust with airtight terms, leaving no room for her to interfere. For the first time in this chaotic ordeal, I felt a sense of control, but I knew she wouldn't back down easily. At least now, I wouldn't be caught off guard in court. A few weeks later, I decided I needed a direct confrontation, but not in person. My lawyer warned me against that, saying she might try to pull some stunt. So, I set up another virtual meeting. This time, she showed up on camera with a smug expression, acting like she had already won. I asked if I could see the kids. Big surprise. She claimed they weren't home. Probably a blatant lie. I figured she was afraid that if I spoke to them, they'd hear a different side of the story. Instead, she launched into a sob story about her financial struggles and how she had no choice but to move away. Cue the tiny violin. I calmly reiterated that the kids would be well supported, just not through her. That set her off. She ranted about how I was making her look like a bad mother, accusing me of meddling in her parental rights. When she finally finished her tirade, I let a bit of my frustration show. I told her straight up, "You abandoned any family connection the second you walked away and cut me off for a decade. I'm not your personal ATM." She exploded, shouting that I'd regret this, calling me heartless, and spewing other nonsense before abruptly logging off. I sat there for a moment, unsurprised but still disgusted. When I called my mother, she practically cheered me on for standing firm. My uncle agreed, better to handle this now than be blindsided later. That's when my daughter-in-law switched tactics. She started sending messages with pictures of my grandkids looking sad, followed by complaints about how they needed money for school activities and extracurriculars. Classic emotional blackmail. What kind of person weaponizes their children to guilt-trip their grandfather, especially one they ghosted for 10 years? She even tried rallying distant relatives, telling them I was withholding money out of spite. A few cousins, unaware of the full story, reached out, asking why I was denying my grandkids a better life. So, I laid out the entire situation from the beginning. Needless to say, once they heard my side, they turned on her real quick. The most infuriating part? She even dangled the possibility of me seeing my grandkids if I agreed to give her control over the inheritance. Talk about manipulation. That's when I realized she'd stooped to any level. I made it clear. If my grandkids wanted to see me, they were welcome to reach out directly. But the trust? It wasn't changing. More furious texts followed, calling me heartless. Then she escalated again, this time threatening to move overseas so I'd never see my grandkids. That hit hard, but it also enraged me. Using them as leverage was beyond despicable. I consulted my lawyer, who told me that if she left the country, it would make it even harder for her to make any legal claims against me. The downside? It could also mean I'd never get to meet my grandkids in person. It was a brutal realization, but I refused to cave. One night, over beers, my uncle and I strategized. We decided I had to go full fortress mode. Lawyer up, finalize every detail of my estate, and gather proof of her harassment. I hated treating family matters like a courtroom battle, but she left me no choice. So I got to work. Over the next several weeks, my lawyer and I meticulously structured everything. We established separate trusts for each grandchild and restructured my business assets to shield them from any legal attack. I wanted everything airtight, so that if she tried to take me to court, she'd be slamming against an impenetrable wall. Like clockwork, she found out and lost her mind. She bombarded me with texts, accusing me of ruining the kids' future. The irony? I was securing their future, ensuring they'd have access to college, start a business, or do something meaningful when they came of age. She went silent for a bit, and for a moment, I naively hoped she'd finally give up. Nope. She came back swinging, with a ridiculous lawsuit demanding back child support. Yeah, you read that right. Child support from a grandparent. My lawyer just shook his head, amused. They're really trying everything, huh, he said. The case had no legal ground. There's no law stating grandparents are financially responsible for their grandkids unless there's an official arrangement or adoption, which there wasn't. We filed a response, and the court dismissed her claim. She showed up at the hearing with her attorney, looking furious. When the judge ruled against her, she stormed out. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Who tries to pull something like that? After that, she tried another approach, playing nice. She sent messages like, "The kids miss you so much. We should talk," but it was all calculated. I could see she was hoping to soften me up enough to reconsider the trust. I wasn't falling for it. She even attempted to orchestrate a family meeting through extended relatives, but no one wanted to be manipulated. By then, everyone saw through her games. Legally, I was in a solid position. My will was updated. The trusts were impenetrable. And if my grandkids ever reached out for help or wanted a relationship, I'd welcome them with open arms. But their mother? She'd get nothing. That was final. Then, a few weeks ago, she showed up at my front door. Seeing her in person after all these years nearly gave me a heart attack. She tried to force her way inside, but I blocked the doorway. She launched into another sob story about how tough life was, insisting that her kids deserved better opportunities, and that I was a terrible grandfather for not helping. I told her I am helping them, just not through you. That set her off. She demanded to know the trust amount, basically fishing for a number. I refused. It's none of your business. She threatened to tell the kids I abandoned them. I just shrugged. Go ahead. I have proof of everything. Her face turned red with rage. She still thought she could manipulate me like before, but I wasn't playing the victim anymore. She stormed off, cursing me out. Haven't heard from her since. And honestly, that's a relief. I still feel torn about my grandkids. I hate that I've missed so many years with them. I hate that they've likely grown up hearing a twisted version of who I am, but at least I know I've done everything I can to secure their future. If they ever reach out to me directly, I'll welcome them wholeheartedly. I hold no resentment toward them. They're just caught in the crossfire of their mother's entitlement. As for her, she made her bed. She cut me off for a decade, then waltzed back in expecting access to my fortune. Now, she has to live with the consequences. Maybe she'll try another scheme down the road. If so, I'm ready. My paperwork is solid. My lawyer's on standby, and I've learned not to underestimate just how far people will go for money. Moral of the story: never let anyone guilt trip you into handing over what's rightfully yours, not even family. It's a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes the only way to handle manipulative people is to show them you're not bluffing. I wanted to be a loving grandfather, to spoil my grandkids and be part of their lives. She stole that from me, but now she has to live with the reality that I won't be pushed around anymore. If my grandkids ever find their way to me, they'll know the truth. Until then, I'm focusing on my peace of mind, knowing their future is secured, even if their mother can't worm her way into my inheritance.